What's going on YouTube? In today's video, I have 5 books that I recommend to read. Okay guys, welcome back to another video. So in today's video, I'm going to kind of just talk about 5 books that I recommend those of you out there to read. Now obviously, it's going to be kind of, the books are more geared towards if you have some social anxiety and depression, but also I do feel that everyone would benefit from reading these 5 books. I do think that it's something that would help people just with everyday life decisions and choices. Now, before I get into these 5, obviously if you have depression and anxiety and you're watching this, I definitely recommend you read the Feeling Good book. I actually talked about it in my 10 cognitive distortion video, so I'll put a link in that description down below. If you haven't read that book, I definitely recommend you read that book first. If you're just looking for a book to read, I think it is phenomenal. It's one of the best books for self-help. I think it's the #1 recommended book for therapists who have clients who have depression and anxiety. Okay, so with that said, let me get into the list. So the #1 book is called The Power of Habit. Now, in this book, it is really powerful. I put this #1 for a reason. When I was reading it, it was really eye-opening for me. So in the book, they talk about how there's really 3 things that cause a habit. One is the cue. So the cue is the event that takes place that causes your body to do the automatic routine. And when you do the routine, it has your reward, right? So, for example, right, you may smell some specific food, right? So smelling the food is the cue that now your body just wants to eat the food, right? And obviously eating that food, whether it's healthy or not, is the reward, right? So it talks about how 80+% of the things that we do in our daily lives are habit. We don't even recognize that we do certain things, right? We brush our teeth the same exact way. Even with something like driving, there's plenty of times where I remember myself when I drive home, I don't even remember driving home, right? I don't remember what happened. And it's because when you drive home from work, you've done the drive hundreds of times, so you don't even realize that you're doing it, right? Your brain kind of protects itself by going into autopilot, because if your brain were to be thinking at a high level all the time, it's not sufficient, right? So reading a book like this was really eye-opening for me, because it kind of works the same with depression, right? There's certain cues that trigger the depression and the anxiety, and those cues lead to the routine, which is usually the self-doubt, the negative self-talk, right, which puts you in a negative spiral, right? And then if you could call it a reward, the reward is the actual feeling of feeling terrible, right? So I think after reading this book, it really was eye-opening with really everything in my life, not just, certain depression and depressive thoughts, but also just anything that I was currently doing in my life. It kind of made me realize that, our brains are on autopilot. Excuse me, our brains are on autopilot, so we have to really be cognizant of what we're doing and why we're doing it. And if it's something that you feel that you're doing just because it's just a routine that's been built in, but you don't want to do it anymore, it's going to take work and it's going to take effort to stop that routine. But I feel like obviously anything is possible. You can change any habit that you want to change. You can install any new habit that you want to. But I feel like reading this book is really helpful if you want to start kind of changing your habits. Book #2 is What to Say When You Talk to Yourself, right? So in this book, obviously, it's very powerful as well. In the book, they talk about it, how by the time you turn 18, you've heard the word no, don't, you can't, about 148,000 times. 148,000 times, and that's the average, right? Some parents were overachievers, right? Some of us, have parents that said it even more, or even friends or family members that said it even more. So with all that negativity coming from the outside world, what's on the inside is so important. And they also talk about the fact that all self-help stuff works, right? But the reason why some people, or most people, it doesn't work for them is because right up here, they're not actually ready to not only receive the information, but once they receive the information, they're not ready to apply it. And because you're not ready to apply it, nothing is going to change, right? And that's something you probably heard if you've gone to any seminar before, right? If you're not willing to change, nothing's going to change. But I think reading a book like this will help you understand how powerful self-talk is, and just understanding that not everybody wants the best for you. Not everybody is going to say positive things about you. So it has to be you that starts with it, especially those of you out there that have depression and anxiety. You have to do this every single day until you start to believe it and start to believe that you are a good person, right? And you do have value and you do bring positivity to the world. Now, book number 3, Overcoming Social Anxiety and Shyness. This one I still have to read. I am still working on this. So this book is really, really long, but really good. There's a lot of good information in here. Now, in this book, they talk about CBT. So CBT obviously is cognitive behavioral therapy. Kind of talked about it a little bit in my the second video, technically. So CBT is essentially, generally, not a therapist, but generally what it is it means that your thoughts influence your emotions, and your emotions affect the actions you do or don't take, and the actions you do or don't take, they reinforce your thoughts. So for example, if I think that I don't have any friends and I'm a loser, it's going to put me in a negative emotional state, so I'm going to feel bad about myself. Because I feel bad about myself, I'm not going to go out and hang out with friends and talk to friends, because I sit at home all day long and I play video games and watch TV. What's going to happen is it's going to reinforce the fact that I have no friends. It's kind of the basis of how CBT works. So with this book, obviously, they talk about the cognitive side of being shy and, having social anxiety is really in yourself. Right, you have to reinforce positive thoughts, right? Like, okay, I'm going to go to this party and it's going to turn out good, or I'm going to talk to some people, and also understanding that when you have conversations with people, people are allowed to react however they want to react, and all you have to do is try to focus on what you can control. So, for example, if you go to a house party, what can you control? You can control how many new people you talk to and greet, right? You can't control how the conversation is going to go because you can't control what they're going to say. But you can say, I'm going to go to this house party and I'm going to introduce myself to 3 people, right? You can control that. And then however those 3 conversations go, that's okay. You can then, probably keep reading this book, right? And you work on it and you get better and you get better. And the more times you go to parties, the more people you approach, the more comfortable you get. But I feel like reading a book like this will definitely help you, to understand that, hey, it's scary, especially it's scary, especially if you have social anxiety, right? Because you're unsure of how the conversation is going to go. But understanding that the conversation can go 1,000 different ways, and you just have to understand that a lot of times it's because both people, not only you, but the other person you're talking to, they have their own beliefs, their own thoughts, their own ways of going about communication. So just understanding that kind of helps, at least it's helped me realize that when I'm talking to someone, it doesn't have to go well, right? The conversation doesn't have to go well for it to be a good conversation, and I think a lot of times when we have that social anxiety, we feel like it always has to go well. Now, with the 4th book, it's called Less Doing, More Living. So with this book, it really kind of lets you kind of develop an understanding of valuing your time, right? Time is the most valuable asset that we have. And in the book, it kind of just gives examples of things you can do to be more free and have more time, right? So it talks about things like, maybe if you don't like doing a specific chore or a specific job, paying somebody else to do that job for you, right? So for example, maybe something like clothes, right? Doing laundry. Instead of doing your own laundry, you can pay a service to fold and wash your laundry for you. This way, it frees up your time to not only either be more productive at your work where you make more money than what you're paying them to do your laundry, or it'll free up time to spend with your family or your friends, which is way more important than doing laundry on one of your days off. So like I said, in the book, they actually go over specific examples. So the book was really interesting because I've never really read a book like that kind of, it doesn't talk about really as much of the why, but it kind of just gives you examples, which is really cool. Now, the last book, but not the least, of course, is The Compound Effect. So in The Compound Effect, they talk about just the process of doing small things over a long period of time, gaining a huge benefit, right? One of the examples that's in the book that they talk about is, what would you rather have, $3 million today or a penny for the next 31 days that doubles in value every day, right? Now, with that example, you've probably heard it before, right? On, I think it's day 25, it's worth about $167,000, so nowhere near the $3 million. But over the course of the next 6 days, by the day 31, it's worth like $10.7 million, right? It takes, I think, 29 days before it becomes close to that $3 million at 2.68, and then because it doubles and doubles, it gets to 10.7. So it kind of reinforces the fact that doing small things over a long period of time kind of has huge benefits. Another small example they use in the book is 3 friends. They all weigh the exact same, and one friend is eating at the same level that they were all 3 doing, so they don't change their eating habits at all. One friend decides to eat 125 calories less, pretty small, number to cut. Another person eats 125 calories more. And what they did was they said over about 6-7 months, before you really still can't even see a huge difference, but they did it after 31 months of doing that. And after 31 months, it was 33.5 pounds was the difference between the middle person who did not change the diet and the person who ate 125 calories more, and then also another 33.5 pound difference between the person who ate 125 calories less. So even though that's a small thing, like that's as simple as changing out 1 soda for 1 meal for a water, right? That's as simple as that. Doing that for 31 straight months, right? That's a 67-pound difference from the guy who cut from the guy who added, right? That's a huge difference in about 3 years, right? So again, reiterates the point of small, simple changes have huge, huge effects, not only in business, but in your personal life as well. So again, definitely recommend this book. Please check it out. Now, those are the 5 books. Obviously, there's plenty of other books you can read. I just kind of want to make a video out there for you guys to say, okay, well, Vinny, what should I be reading? What should I be doing? To maybe if I'm not watching YouTube videos, how I can help myself. And I do believe, those 5 books are a good start. But also understand this, even that first book, the Feeling Good book, that I recommended you read first. Understand that you should be reading multiple books, not just read one book and say, okay, this is the be-all, end-all, I have to follow this one, right? If, let's say, you read one book and you gain one thing from it, and you read another book and you gain 1 or 2 things from that, right? Eventually, over time, as you read 5, 6, 7, 8 books, you'll gain a bunch of different perspectives from a bunch of different books, and you'll be able to just kind of take all those things from each book and put that into your own life, right? So, and that works with anything in life, right? It works with YouTubers, right? Don't just watch my channel, right? Watch other channels and gain some other information from others. So that's it for the video, guys. Just wanted to give you some recommendations if you're not really sure where to start, which books to read. Kind of want to give you kind of a small start on that. And, if you have read any of the books, comment below, let me know what you think. Or maybe if you're going to pick up one, let me know. Or if you decide to go and purchase one and read it, maybe come back to the video and just let me know your thoughts of reading either of the books that I did recommend. Again, thank you guys so much for watching the video. I love you guys, and I hope this helps. And I'll see you guys in the next video.